This is a story of betrayal wrapped in a beautiful disguise, a test of loyalty that turned into a nightmare, and a man who thought he knew the woman he married until she showed him who she truly was. Let's go back to the beginning. The man's name was Obinna. Handsome, smart, ruthless in business, a self-made billionaire from Nigeria, born and raised in Enugu. He didn't inherit wealth. He built it, from selling recharge cards on the street at 17 to owning oil fields, luxury hotels, and construction companies across Africa by 38. He had it all. Money, power, fame, and he had her. Amara, a breathtaking beauty from Imo State, with skin like gold dust, eyes that could melt a mountain, and a voice that wrapped around your soul like silk. He met her at a charity event. She wasn't like the others. She was calm, soft-spoken. She didn't care about the cameras or the money. At least, that's what he thought. Obinna fell hard. 2 months later, they were married in a private ceremony in Zanzibar. People said he was crazy to rush into it. But love doesn't always wait for logic. And Obinna, he believed in love. Breathes in deeply. But after 2 years of marriage, something began to feel off. Amara started changing. Little things. She spent more time on her phone, less time with him. She started demanding more expensive gifts, bags, watches, vacations. She started controlling his staff, and she became colder. Almost like she was tolerating him. He ignored it for months, told himself it was stress, or maybe she just needed attention. But something deep in his chest kept whispering, "She's not who you think she is." And so one night, while he sat alone in his study, sipping whiskey and staring at their wedding photo, he decided to do the unthinkable. He would test her, not with words, but with action. He would pretend he had lost everything, every naira, every asset. He wanted to see the truth with his own eyes, not filtered through romance, not diluted by sweet words, just raw, unfiltered truth. So, Obinna made some calls. He transferred his assets temporarily to his trusted cousin in Ghana. He had his staff act like they were shutting down operations. He changed the locks on the cars. He canceled the black card. He started dressing down. No Rolex, no designers, no chauffeur. He even told the maids not to come for a week. He wanted the house to feel empty, like the life he used to live was gone. Then he sat down with Amara. "Babe," he said, forcing a deep sigh, "I need to tell you something. I lost everything." Amara blinked. "Everything? What do you mean?" she asked, her voice sharp like glass. He looked away, pretending shame. "My investments crashed. The government revoked 2 licenses. The board pulled out. There's nothing left." There was silence. Dead, cold silence. Then she laughed. A short, dry, painful laugh. "Wait, this isn't a joke?" Obinna shook his head. "I'm serious. I'm broke." She stood up slowly. "Obinna, you're broke? Like no money at all? No house help. No money. Just us." Amara stared at him for a long moment. Her eyes scanned his face like she was trying to see beyond his skin. And then she said 5 words that made his heart twist. "So, what happens now?" He tried to smile. "We figure it out together?" But the way she looked at him, the way her shoulders dropped, the way her mouth tightened, he knew. He just knew. Something was about to break. And what happened next? It was just the beginning. A beginning of something so cold, so terrifying, so unexpected. Obinna would wish he never tried to test her at all. Obinna stood there, frozen. He was waiting, hoping for her to say something soft, maybe reach out to hug him, maybe fall to her knees in tears saying, "We'll get through this. I married you, not your money." But no, what came out of her mouth instead was, "Obinna, I can't do this." He blinked. "Huh?" She folded her arms. "I said I can't do this. I didn't sign up to suffer with you." Obinna felt a sharp pain cut through his chest like a hot blade. "Amara, what are you saying?" She shook her head, pacing slowly like a cat. "When I met you, you were a billionaire. You came with power, class, and wealth. I didn't marry a poor man. I didn't leave my life behind just to end up in struggle. I'm not your mother or your village wife." He stared at her, barely breathing. "So you're telling me, now that I'm down, you're leaving me?" She didn't even hesitate. "Yes, I can't stay in this kind of mess." Obinna's eyes glistened, but he blinked hard and forced the tears back. "And all the love? Everything we shared? The vows? Me opening my world to you? That means nothing?" Amara hissed. "Love doesn't pay bills, and those vows were based on what you had, not what you lost." He sat down slowly on the couch. His heart was racing. His palms were sweating. This was real. This was his wife. and she was tearing off her mask, piece by piece. Then she said something else, something that made his stomach turn. I've been talking to someone anyway, someone who actually knows how to keep money, someone who can take care of me properly. He looked up sharply. What did you just say? She didn't flinch. You heard me. While you've been working late and playing Mr. Businessman, I've had company. Someone who listens to me. Someone who actually knows how to please a woman. A heavy silence fell in the room. Obina's fingers curled into a fist, but he didn't say a word. Not yet. You're cheating? He whispered. Amara looked at her nails. I'm not cheating. I'm upgrading. Obina exhaled slowly. His whole body trembled, not from fear, but from rage mixed with heartbreak. Then she dropped the final bomb. I want a divorce, and I'm taking half of what's left. Obina looked up, blinking fast. Half? But I told you I'm broke. She smirked. You may be broke, but I know you've hidden money. You billionaires always have backups. I'll get a lawyer. We'll sort it out. He stared at her. For the first time in his life, he couldn't speak. The woman he thought was his soulmate was now a stranger sitting across from him, cold, proud, and heartless. That night, Amara packed her things, designer bags, shoes, perfumes. She didn't even look back as she walked out of the gate into a black Lexus that had been waiting down the street. Obina watched from the window. The man in the driver's seat kissed her cheek before driving off. Obina didn't move. He didn't cry. He just sat there, alone. For 2 days, he stayed silent. No calls. No food, just silence. He kept remembering her laugh, her kiss, her touch, but it was all fake, all of it. He gave her his soul, and she sold it for designer shoes and temporary pleasure. But Obina wasn't a fool. No. This was a man who built an empire from nothing, a man who clawed his way up from the dust. And now, he wasn't just hurt. He was angry, very angry. It wasn't just about Amara anymore. It was about the truth, about all the lies, about how people switch sides when the music stops playing. So he made another decision. He would not sit and cry. He would rise, and she would watch him. But first, he needed to know everything. Who the other man was, how long they'd been seeing each other, what they had planned. So he made a few calls, discreet ones, hired a private investigator, quiet, efficient, ruthless. What came back shocked even him. Amara had been seeing the man, his business rival, for 7 months. Chuka Okoye, a greedy, manipulative developer who once tried to steal Obina's biggest contract. Amara and Chuka had been plotting behind his back. She'd been feeding him sensitive information, business secrets, investment plans, even client contacts. She wasn't just cheating. She was betraying him on a corporate level. The upgrade she mentioned, it was part of a setup. Chuka wanted to destroy Obina, and Amara, she wanted to be queen on the winning side. Obina's chest boiled. How could she do this to me, after everything? But he didn't confront her. Not yet. He waited. Quietly. He let her believe he was broken, crushed, finished. And she walked taller, posting new photos online, partying in Lagos, holding Chuka's hand like a trophy. Until one day, she got a letter, a court summons. It was from Obina. She laughed when she saw it. Divorce proceedings already? Good, I'll take what's mine. But she had no idea what was coming next, because Obina had flipped the script, and the game she thought she was winning was about to eat her alive. You see this life, Obina muttered as he stood on the balcony of his private guest house overlooking the edge of Ikoyi. The sun was setting, casting a burnt orange glow over the water, but he didn't blink. He was thinking, plotting, breathing slow. His phone buzzed. Boss, we've gathered everything. The photos, the messages, the audio recordings. She's been feeding Chuka information since November. Obina's jaw tightened. Good work. Send me everything, and get me Barrister Tony. Yes, sir. He hung up and just stood there, breathing. His face looked calm, but inside, fire. Not just heartbreak. Not just betrayal. This was a man rising from the ashes of humiliation to strike back. Meanwhile, Amara was celebrating. Baby, Obina is finished, she whispered into Chuka's ears, laughing as she poured champagne into a crystal glass. He's even filing for divorce. All I need now is the court to award me half, and we're free. Chuka smirked, sipping his drink. You're a smart woman, Amara. You did well. She curled into him like a kitten. I did everything for us. What she didn't know was, Chuka wasn't loyal either. He was using her. He had already started flirting with another rich widow in Abuja. In fact, he'd even told one of his guys, once this money from Obina's split comes in, I'm done with her. She talks too much. But back to Obina. He called a private meeting with Barrister Tonier, a brilliant, sharp-tongued female lawyer with a reputation for dismantling greedy gold diggers. You want to play rough? She smiled after reading the evidence. Let's go to war. 2 weeks later, the divorce hearing started. Amara entered the courtroom in a red dress that screamed confidence. Expensive bag, new wig, loud perfume. She looked at Obina like he was nothing. She didn't even greet him. Her lawyer was already whispering, "We're going for full spousal support. House, cars, 50% of remaining assets." Obina didn't say a word. He just sat calmly, like a man with a hidden weapon. When it was time to speak, Amara stood proudly. "This man abandoned me emotionally and financially. He lied to me about his money. I suffered mental stress. I deserve what is mine." Obina's lawyer smiled lightly and said, "Permission to play audio for the court?" The judge nodded. And then, click, Amara's voice came through the speaker. "He's broke now, but he still has hidden money. I'll take it from him and bounce. I'm not built for struggle." The court gasped. Even the judge blinked in disbelief. Amara's face froze. "Wait, that was taken out of context." The lawyer hit play again. This time, it was a video. Amara kissing Chuka in a hotel room, laughing. "He doesn't even know I've been feeding you his secrets. He's so dumb. Once we get the money, he's nothing to me." Boom! The entire courtroom was silent. Even her own lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. "Your Honor," Obina's lawyer said, "we have records of her betrayal, emotional abuse, and plans to extort Mr. Obina. She is not only unfaithful, she's criminally manipulative." The judge rubbed his forehead, speechless. Amara looked around. "Obina, please, listen. I didn't mean." But Obina didn't even look at her. He stood slowly and said only 2 words. "Finish her." The judge ruled in Obina's favor. No money, no house, no cars, not even a dime. Instead, Amara was ordered to pay damages for leaking corporate secrets. And guess what? Chuka. He disappeared the same day, blocked her, changed his number, traveled out of the country. Amara collapsed in court. She begged. She wept. "Obina, please. I was angry. I didn't mean it. I was scared. I thought you'd never come back." But he just walked past her. No words. She had failed the test, not just as a wife, but as a human being. That night, Obina returned to his mansion, not broken, not wounded, but wiser. He had tested love, and what he found terrified him. He stood at the balcony again, sipping water, his eyes scanning the skyline. "People only love you when the light is on," he thought. But when darkness comes, the true ones stay. And as for Amara, she was left with nothing. No man, no money, no love, only regret. And in the streets of Lagos, when people whispered, "That's her, the woman who tried to rob a billionaire," she'd pull her scarf lower and walk faster. But no scarf could hide shame, no heels could carry regret, and no makeup could cover over a heart that had been stripped bare. Months had passed. Obina's name was everywhere. The billionaire who faked his fall to test his wife. Newspapers, blogs, even radio shows in Ghana and South Africa were discussing it. He didn't respond to interviews, didn't explain, didn't gloat. He simply disappeared. No one knew that he had quietly relocated to a private estate in Rwanda, peaceful, green, untouched by gossip. But peace doesn't always erase pain, because even though he had won the battle, he had lost something too. "I gave her my soul," he once told his driver, "and she sold it for a wristwatch and champagne." Meanwhile, back in Lagos, Amara was drowning. Her reputation was burnt. Her bank account empty, her heart smashed. She had been evicted from her high-rise apartment. And when she called her so-called friends, the same women who used to beg her for beauty tips, who admired her designer handbags, they all replied with silence, or sarcasm, or simply blocked her. One evening, she stood outside a restaurant in Lekki, looking in through the glass. Inside, a couple was laughing, feeding each other. The woman looked happy, peaceful. Amara stood there, hugging her cheap handbag, eyes wet, shoulders shaking. That should have been me. And then her phone rang, unknown number. She picked it up, her voice already trembling. "Hello? Is this Mrs. Amara Obina?" Her chest tightened. I'm no longer? "We have an arrest warrant for you. Industrial espionage, corporate sabotage. You're to report to the EFCC headquarters tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Boom. She dropped the phone like it burned her fingers. She sat on the pavement, head buried between her knees. It was Obina. He wasn't done. What she didn't know was Obinna wasn't trying to destroy her. He was trying to teach her. Because sometimes pain is the only teacher people respect. The next day, she showed up in a wrinkled blouse, face bare, feet swollen from walking in old shoes. She was escorted in and made to sit in a cold interrogation room for 5 hours. Then the door opened. She looked up, and there he was. Obinna, standing tall, calm, dressed in black. Her lips parted, but no words came out. He walked in slowly, no expression, no pity. "Do you love me?" he asked softly. She blinked. "What?" I said, "Do you love me, Amara? Not my money, not my house, not my jet. Me. Do you love me?" She broke down, sobbing, loud, messy, ugly sobs. "Obinna, I messed up. I was scared. You changed. You started staying away. I thought you were hiding things. I panicked." He sat across from her. "You cheated. You lied. You plotted with my enemy. You were going to take everything I ever worked for." She whispered through tears, "I was foolish. I don't even recognize who I became." Obinna sighed, deeply. He looked tired. "You know what hurts?" he said quietly. "I would have given you everything. I just wanted to know, if I lost it all, would you still be there?" She reached for his hand. He didn't move. He looked her in the eye. Cold. "You failed that test." Silence. Her breathing was shaky. "Are you going to press charges?" He leaned forward. "No." Her eyes widened. "You won't?" "I'm not like you." And just like that, he stood and walked away. But before exiting, he turned and said, "I pray the next man you meet doesn't test you, because next time, you might lose more than money." And then he left. Just like that. She cried so hard that day, the security guard outside offered her a bottle of water. But water couldn't quench that kind of thirst. The thirst for redemption. The thirst for love she threw away. Later that year, Obinna returned to Lagos, silently, secretly. His company had reached new heights. He was building a foundation for widows, a tech hub for street kids, and even housing for displaced families. But one day, at a quiet charity event in Ikeja, he noticed a woman sweeping the floor. She looked familiar. Hair shorter, face thinner. But those eyes, those same eyes that used to sparkle. It was Amara, volunteering at a women's shelter. Not for money, not for clout, but for something real. He didn't approach her. He simply watched, from a distance. For once, she looked pure, unmasked. Maybe pain had done its job. Maybe she had learned. Or maybe it was too late. As she turned and saw him watching, their eyes locked. She froze. He nodded once, not out of love, not out of hate, just understanding. A silent message passed between them. We both broke something, but we survived. They say time heals all wounds, but some wounds don't need healing. They need truth. It had been 1 year since Obinna last saw Amara. That fleeting, quiet moment at the shelter, where their eyes met and everything they didn't say screamed louder than words ever could, stayed with him. She had disappeared again, this time not into wealth or power or drama, but into silence. He'd gone back to building his empire, brick by brick, heart by heart. But deep inside, something tugged at him. Not regret, not anger, just a hollow space, a question that wouldn't leave. Could love survive betrayal? He'd done everything right, tested her, caught her lies, walked away. But why did it still hurt? And why, when he lay awake some nights in his big cold mansion, did he still think about her laugh? The way she used to rub his shoulders after a long day, or that time she cried at a wedding because the bride's father danced with her? Was that woman completely gone? Or had she just lost her way? One morning, Obinna was reading reports in his study when his personal assistant, Kenneth, knocked gently. "Sir, you're going to want to see this." "What is it?" Kenneth placed a newspaper on his desk. Front page. Former billionaire's wife opens free clinic in Ajagunle slum. "My mistakes made me human," she says. Obinna stared at the photo. It was her. No makeup, plain dress, a baby strapped to her back, smiling with kids in front of a dusty building. There it was again, that same sparkle in her eyes. He placed the paper down and sat back. Something in his chest cracked, and for the first time in years, he wept, not out of sadness, but from a deep, raw ache. The ache of realizing that love is not just what survives wealth, it's what survives shame, failure, and time. 2 weeks later, Amara sat in the clinic office alone. It was raining hard. The roof leaked. She grabbed a small bowl to catch the dripping water and whispered to herself with a sad chuckle, "Riches to raindrops." She sighed, then turned to go check on the children when the door creaked open. She looked up and froze. Obinna, standing there, No bodyguards, no umbrella, just him, soaked in rain. Her voice trembled. Why are you here? He walked in slowly, closed the door behind him, and looked around the humble room. This place, he said softly. It's honest. She swallowed hard, trying to keep the tears back. Everything I lost, I deserved, she said. I thought you loved my money more than me, he replied. She looked down. I did. I was blinded, but when the money was gone and everyone left, I found myself. He nodded, then said the one thing that made her knees weak. Do you think there's a way back? She looked up sharply. Back? Not to the old us, but maybe to a new us. Silence, and she whispered, I don't deserve it. He smiled faintly. Neither do I. Their eyes met. No anger, no pride, just forgiveness. He stepped forward and opened his arms. She didn't hesitate. She ran into them. And in that moment, it wasn't about money or tests or broken trust. It was just two people, two souls who had walked through fire and came out on the other side, still willing to try. Epilogue, 2 years later. The same clinic, but now expanded. New roofs, solar panels, laughter echoing through the halls. A new name hangs above the door. The Obina and Amara Foundation for Second Chances. Inside, Obina plays with kids while Amara gives a speech to donors. They're not just husband and wife anymore. They're partners. In pain, in healing, in purpose. And as she watches him, holding a little girl who clings to his neck and calls him daddy, she knows the test was real. And somehow, by grace, they both passed in the end. Sometimes love doesn't come easy. Sometimes it breaks, shatters, and burns. But when it rebuilds, it becomes stronger than ever.